Today we're going to talk about Legends and Lattes by Travis Baldree. It is a low-stakes, high fantasy book, also called cozy fantasy. So if you're into sort of a warm hug with orcs and dwarves and stuff, this is definitely your genre. The premise of the book is that a mercenary orc named Viv has decided to retire from her life of adventuring and open a coffee shop in a place where nobody's ever heard of coffee. And it's sort of a delightful romp through her setting up the business and acquiring her people, adjusting to life, sitting still, basically being in one place rather than moving around all the time, and learning how not to reach for violence as the first means of problem solving. So there's a lot of character exploration in there. It is definitely a character-focused story. They just happen to be orcs and succubi and dwarves and gnomes. And of course, before we get going too far into this, I do have to do the YouTube thing and ask if you would please like the video and subscribe to the channel. Things like that really help me out, so if you've done that already, thank you so much for taking the time. Viv is an aging orc who has decided to lay down her sword and set aside her life of adventuring. She is going to use her accumulated wealth and this trinket, this magical stone that she found on one of her adventures, in order to open a coffee shop. There are issues, of course, in opening a coffee shop in a place where nobody's ever heard of coffee, but with the help of an enterprising succubus and a very talented ratkin baker, Viv does in fact open the shop, and everything starts to sort of roll forward with success. Before we get too far into it, I will note that the next few parts are going to have spoilers, so if you want to skip over the plot summary and just go to the recap, I'll make sure that I put timestamps down below for you. So once business gets rolling, a local crime boss known only as the Madrigal starts demanding protection money from Viv, and the mercenary in her just doesn't have the heart to pay it. There's also a threat from a former business partner who wants to take the stone, this good luck thing that she found on this adventure, for himself. She thinks that it has given her the good luck that she needs in order to open the coffee shop. She thinks that she's sort of riding on the luck that she's been given by this stone, and this former business partner of hers that she didn't get along with wants to take it. So both the Madrigal and Fennis, the former business partner, threaten Viv's new way of life. They sort of encroach on her attempt at civilizing herself and settling herself and not using violence as a means of solving problems. Fortunately for her, she's surrounded herself by like-minded people. She's surrounded herself by people who genuinely care about the shop and genuinely care about her as a person. So in a moment of weakness, Viv calls for aid from her old adventuring buddies, sort of reaching back towards that violence, that violent problem solving that she had always known. And Tandri sort of intervenes. She's like, what are you doing? The moment you pick that sword up, you've discarded all of this. It's not going to be just the one time. Then it's people are coming in and they're giving you money because you're the threat rather than the Madrigal. And so instead of sicking her old business partners on this Madrigal and on Fennis, or doing the work herself, she secures a meeting with the Madrigal instead, and they sort of come to a begrudging respect for each other and sort of come to an agreement or a truce. Because the Madrigal has a tremendous sweet tooth and really likes Viv's coffee. So that is her payment to the Madrigal, is a bag of sweets and a cup of coffee instead of protection money, which I thought was really cute. So eventually Fennis, Viv's old business partner, shows back up, and he wants this stone that she has. The problem, of course, is that Viv thinks that the entire enterprise, the whole coffee shop, and all of the people around her are relying on it being there in order to garner its luck. So Fennis decides he's not going to take no for an answer. He tries to sneak in and steal it, and Viv thwarts him. She wakes up in the middle of the night, and then he comes back later and sets the place on fire. Viv manages to rescue both Tandri and the coffee machine, but everything else, the shop and Viv's dreams, go up in smoke. Fortunately, she's been surrounding herself by solid people all along. She has helped people who needed help. She has given a home to people who needed a place to feel like they belonged. And so when Viv loses everything, all of those people that she's given a place to belong sort of rally together, and everybody pitches in the way that they best know how, and they help her rebuild this shop. They go into debt doing it, of course. There's no perfect solution, but I really appreciated the way that, you know, Pendry, the former stonemason becoming a bard, comes and lays bricks, and the carpenter rebuilds stalls and studs, and, you know, and this person does this and that person does that, and it all sort of comes together over time in this great outpouring of love for the community that Viv has built. So with the coffee shop rebuilt, Viv and Tandry sort of negotiate or work out their own little happy ending, and Fennis has the stone, but it's not what he thinks he is, and he sort of gets his comeuppance too, which gives everything a really satisfying conclusion. I can see why people like this so much. The characters are really engaging and interesting. On top of that, the story is fun. It may be lower action or lower stakes than your typical fantasy novel. You know, there's no young person being pulled off a farm, tapped as the chosen one and sent to save the world, but there are real stakes and real people involved in those stakes. There are real consequences for failure or for not doing the things that they know are right and the things that they know that they should do. And so it's a more character-focused story than many fantasy books that are focused more on the mechanisms of the world and the magic and things like that. So I found it to be very interesting and engaging, and I can see why people love this so much.
If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button, and of course if you like the way that I present information, hit the subscribe button and the notification bell down below. You can find all of my social media contacts in the description. And of course, if you want to keep up with me and the progress I'm making on my current novel, you can do that at effywritesbooks.com. Thank you so much for watching, have an excellent day, and I'll see you next time.